it says the etymology of the word pious is from the Latin word pious, but without the O in it, Pius. A Latin word that meant dutiful, devout, conscientious, religious, faithful. So like,
It's also what me and you say when we enter a pizza place. We're like,
so I think pious right now, pie me, baby. Well, here we are, everybody. We're back once again, virtual Airstream Studios for Putting On Airs. Back in the virtual space after the little detour into physical contact with one another. That was fun.
well, that's why I've been coughing a lot. We were around each other. We gave each
I'm
other.
sick.
Okay, we gave each other herpetogonosyphilades or whatever it is.
I went to. I've just had sinus infection because I went to Oregon right after I left you, and it was beautiful there, but also the pollen was out of control, I guess.
Yeah,
and
that's what it is for me too.
Yeah,
that's what it is for me too. I mean, anytime I travel or anything, which by the way, hey, I'll go ahead and do it because I'll forget. Speaking of traveling, I'll be in St. Louis May 2nd. Y'all come see your boy. And I'm very excited because if I'm not mistaken, St. Louis, they got a bunch of Italian shit, right? Like they're like eat up with Italian stuff.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I know they got barbecue, but I'm pretty sure they're eat up with Italian stuff too. May 2nd, Helium Comedy Club, come see me. But yeah, and I've already written it down on my like calendar. It's like every time I travel, I come home and I'm just a little bit sick. And the next day I got to go to my son's and my niece's birthday party. And I'm just like, I'm going to be in an absolute living hell flying in through this. It's the change of the weather, the pollen, all that stuff. But now it's like I've been sick so much this winter through now early this spring that now I just have to go, well, this is just how it is. It's just how you be. So may as well just carry on with life. You can't take a half a year off, you know?
Yep. Well, go see him in St. Louis and come see me in Houston this weekend when this comes out. And then after that, Seattle and Vegas and a bunch of other places. That's all at TraeCrowder.com. So I got a thing I wanted to show you that I really hope you haven't seen. And this is, y'all, this can be a listening only thing.
Look at you being generous.
Yeah.
But watch us at watchpoa.com. I'm told it's better.
Here, I'm trying to get it pulled up for everybody. This is something I saw, of course, on Instagram, and I know that it suits the show very well, and it's going to hit for you. My only concern is that you've seen it already.
Yeah. I know how to sell. Don't worry about it, buddy.
All right, here we go. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
If it
says
you can
British
hear
foreplay.
It, yeah, if you can hear it, don't say anything. If you can't hear it, tell me, and I'll try to fix it. But you should be able to hear it.
Beans cold from the tin.
So do I. Genuinely, people think this is ridiculous. I love baked beans cold from the tin.
So do I.
Perfect. With a fork or spoon?
Spoon.
Spoon. I prefer a fork. So you can skewer the last ones.
Yes, but what about the tomatoey sauce?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, you dumbass.
It's like, yeah, he really fumbled it with the fork thing there, didn't he?
So you can pierce the last one. Do you not think you can scoop them too?
Yeah, right.
I have trouble scooping my beans.
This comment right here actually says he fumbled it with the fork. That's funny. The sexual tension is riveting.
Dude, it really is like
50 Shades of Earl Grey. But it's fun, dude. This is just so fucking Britain. He's like, but of course, you're right.
That conversation felt like if the White Lotus and Golden Girls took place in the same universe. You know what I mean? If they just had all them, you know, all the old. If they just had a White Lotus season that was just old people.
Yeah, that could hit. I could see that.
Dude, if Betty White and them were she was still alive and she was in like White Lotus playing a serious thing, that would rule. But I mean, obviously there's plenty of wonderful old actors and actresses that could now, but yeah, that would hit for me.
What do you think about cold beans from the tin?
Oh, I'm not for it. I mean,
neither.
No, don't get me wrong. Have I done it? Yeah.
Of course. Like Beanie Weenie. Did you fuck with Beanie Weenies as a child?
Of course, dude. What are you talking about? Of course. And I've also eaten canned chili without heating it up. Mm-hmm. You know, just out of the can.
I used to go in on Beanie Weenies, man. I ain't had them in a long time.
I did too. And like when I was a kid, it was like I just popped the can open and whatever. You know, maybe
put a little hot sauce in there and go to town.
Whatever, hot sauce. You know, get a saltine cracker going. You know, if you got Beanie Weenies and a saltine cracker, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. But like I've done all these things when I was either a child or super drunk. Like the can of chili thing, I remember that would happen a lot. If I was like, remember being at people's houses sometimes and being so goddamn hungry, but trying not to wake up their mom or something. And we were all like, we'd been drinking in their attic or something, and I'd sneak downstairs and they would have like a can of Van Camp chili or something. And I'm like, okay, well, I can just open the can and get a spoon and go in without like knocking over pots and pans and cooking anything. Like, I've done it, but as an adult, like, no, dude, I'm gonna heat them beans up and eat them with mashed potatoes, all that shit. Like, I ain't just eating no goddamn tinned beans.
What's the equivalent of that experience for you and Amber? Would it be like, she's like, I like to get hammered drunk on mimosas at 11 a.m. on Sunday, and you're like, you know what, I do too. Oh my God, people think I'm crazy, but I do too.
Yeah. For me and Amber, but I feel like it was like that's a normal thing, right? Like getting hammered on mimosas at 11. Well, you say on a Tuesday?
No, but let's just say it is a Tuesday then. If you want to make it a little less normal,
you have to. I feel like saying it's on a Tuesday is the only way that's ridiculous.
Well, I think in England, eating cold beans from the tin is pretty normal.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's just like,
I'd say it's about as normal as getting mimosa drunk at 11 a.m.
I'm just saying, I think 11 a.m. is like a pretty normal, especially if on a Saturday or Sunday. That's a pretty normal time. If you specify
mimosas, yes.
Yeah, if you specify mimosas.
It's odder to be drunk off mimosas at fucking 7 p.m.
Yes.
Than it is 11 a.m., but just getting drunk at 11 a.m. What else is it?
For me and Amber, it would be like, God, I love doing Molly and listening to Meatloaf. You know what I mean? Or, nice. Because like, I love doing oh my God, me too. Because like, and I say that's literally like one of the first times I discovered that I was in love with her. Because, MDMA be just doing that to your brain. Me and her were just roommates. And Meatloaf. Me and her took a bunch of Molly and we were sitting there and I don't know, I was just like, we were just being friends. And I said something like, that reminds me of a Meatloaf something. She's like, what's Meatloaf? The food? And she didn't like know who Meatloaf was. And I was like, wait, what? And she's like, I don't know who that is. And I threw on Paradise by the Dashboard Light. And you talk about blowing her goddamn mind. And then I put on like
jam.
We listened to it. Right. And then I was like, okay, so you heard that. She's like, yeah. I go, now let me show you the motherfucker who be singing that. You know what I mean? Like she just heard it. And I put on like the YouTube video. And she's like, that fucking guy. And we listened to Meatloaf all night and took Molly. And I find that to be romantic, but just as equally crazy as tinned beans.
Yeah. Okay. I got another thing. I'm not still sharing my screen with you. I haven't been the whole time. No. Okay. Well, I've got another thing I want to show you. This one is longer. You can tell me to pause it if you want to jump in on a particular thing, or even if you get to a point where you're like,
I'll give you the director's cut.
Well, I'm going to be looking at the stuff. I'm going to be not looking at you.
I'll say things.
Just say things. Say, hey, stop for a minute. I want to make fun of that.
You want a safe word?
Gay.
Okay, right on. I'll do it. I'll say gay.
We've done this before, this type of thing, but this is a new one that we've never had on the show, and one that I find to be perhaps. In fact,
I've also done these in real life.
I kept asking myself, is this real? So anyway, it says everything I ate at a 5-hour, $700 2 Michelin star dinner at Alchemist in Copenhagen, Denmark. Again, if you're only listening, it's fine. She narrates the whole thing. It is better if you could see some of this shit though. But anyway, here we go.
Everything I ate at my 5-hour, $700 2 Michelin star dinner at Alchemist in Copenhagen. We started in the glow room with some crunchy oxidized apple juice.
Okay, all right, fucking hold on, stop. All right, hold on.
Bro,
hold on.
Literally the very first thing. You'd have no idea.
Hold on.
How raven this gets.
Well, then it's more important that I stop because maybe I'll forget. Like, it'll get so ridiculous that I'll forget that this needs to be addressed. Apple juice hits because it's a cold drink. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to fucking eat no goddamn apple juice cracker, okay?
No.
Apple juice, the reason that it hits is because it's a cold drink. If you hand me this oxidized apple juice, that's a dried apple. That's an apple cracker, okay? Don't call it juice. What do you mean juice? It's a fucking cracker. I want juice.
Yeah. What the fuck is juice?
It's green.
I want some apple drink. It's green.
It's green.
Shout out Dave Chappelle. 20
I'll try
years
to hold
ago,
my
Dave
tongue.
Chappelle. Yeah, again, there's a lot. It's a lot.
Okay.
So that was just the very first thing.
Just drink followed by a puffed gluten ball topped with langoustine, cream, and caviar, and filled with smoke. Next, edible butterflies were served on a nettle leaf. Our server explained that the butterflies were farmed, highlighting the potential use of insects as sustainable protein sources.
No.
Okay, so that they just ate like those are, I think those
They
were
just
actual
butterflies.
that they ate, and it's like that's what people just be doing that. But peasants in fucking Jakarta or whatever, I just eat butterflies. I don't know. They eat crickets.
They do. Have you seen the cricket burgers? Like they make cricket burgers, and they also
crickets are becoming a like. Some people think because we killing the earth and all that it won't be long before crickets supplant become like the number one source of protein.
Okay,
because they're being farmed. They make all kinds of shit out of crickets now. I've had chirps. You ever had chirps?
Maybe.
Chirps they look like Doritos or whatever, but they made out of crickets.
Okay, listen, that's fine. By the way, that's fine. But like, if people gonna be out there eating crickets, wearing Carhartt on the fucking runway, and Kanye West is sucking his cousin's dick, I'm gonna need a mass apology to the South from every fucking body, because like we fucking we be eating bugs and shit like that, rolling around the dirt, sucking our cousin off, and everybody's like, look at them dumbasses. But when everybody else does it, it's like it's a sustainable way to blah blah blah. But dude, in fucking Africa, man, I seen this thing the other day. I'll show it to you if I find it later. They take all these like bugs that otherwise, like maybe mosquitoes, and no, it's really not mosquitoes because that's how you get AIDS, but like all these random type of bugs that they catch them and turn them into a burger patty because of all the protein in the bugs. And it's the grossest looking shit ever, but it's like that's how they got to get protein. But my point is, like, that's what
mosquitoes how you get AIDS.
Well, I think
malaria, right, and other skeeter diseases that don't hit the house.
But mosquitoes also they bite you and they suck your blood, and if you have AIDS and then they go bite another person, I think you can get AIDS that way.
I don't know.
It's not the funnest way to get AIDS, but I'm saying
I'd argue that
whatever
perhaps the least hittingest way to get AIDS, perhaps, other than just being born with it. Can mosquito bites give you AIDS? Cause. It's fun. Mosquito bites cause AIDS.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Mosquito bites cannot transmit HIV and AIDS. Remember, we had this whole conversation on Well Read once where, like, I had just read that, the AIDS epidemic was obviously super bad, and I just read, like, from a scientific, some kind of scholarly resource that, that the percent chance of getting of getting AIDS from even like having unprotected sex with someone that had it,
still very minuscule
in the butt specifically, was like it was like less than 10% or something. And
how much was they fucking law? Jesus Christ!
Well, I mean, gay
Freddie
dudes,
Mercury got it.
They throw down. But
malaria kill you dead though, right?
Do what?
Malaria kill you dead though, right?
I mean, it definitely did back in the day.
Well,
that's why the Brits invented gin and tonics.
Gin and tonic, right? Well,
because they couldn't not get drunk, and they needed the tonic for malaria.
Same thing. You want to avoid mosquitoes because they might
just
get malaria.
Drew told me that he literally didn't believe that about the AIDS stuff. And
I probably didn't at the time.
Even after I showed it, but I showed it to him,
like
the source, and he was like, it was like climate change denial or something. He was like, that just is not true. And I was
we've got a bit of that in us.
I'm showing you that it is true. And he literally, he just never came off of it. And that, of course, is something that I'll remember until the day I die.
Well, that's why he don't have AIDS. You know what I mean? Proof's in the pudding, and the pudding's in your butt.
Oh, because
sorry. All right, go ahead. Is this a fucking empanada?
Yeah. So he just like this. So last thing I'll say before we continue, he ate some butterflies, right? Yeah. And it says, they were farmed from away. And this was meant to illustrate a point about how insects could be a future sustainable protein source. A lot of this dinner is about sustainability and environmentally conscious and stuff. And there's something about that I think is funny.
Yeah, me too. Already,
we'll see as it goes along. Anyway.
Then came these fluffy dumplings with a cotton candy-like texture, filled with savory fish sauce and Thai basil.
That's
After
fine.
that, I had
Fine.
caviar on top of freeze-dried soy sauce that just melted in my mouth.
That's okay.
This soft, pointed oval was their version of an omelet, filled with a rich mix of egg, cheese, and truffle.
That's
the
fine.
next dish was a fried mochi ball stuffed with gooey cheese and ham.
Hell
That's fire.
yeah.
The last bite in the lounge was a cold meringue with buckthorn marmalade inside.
I'm for
We
that.
then moved into the main dining room where these surreal projections played on the domed ceiling as we ate. The first course was raw jellyfish in a delicate herb broth.
Shut up.
Next came the infamous 1984-inspired eye, a gel filled with caviar and razor clams that had a briny burst of flavor.
Okay,
Alchemist's
I mean, I'm
version
in.
of
I'm in on that, but I don't care for the presentation, but that's fine. Like caviar and clam, obviously I'm in.
Raw jellyfish, though?
Yeah,
How
no,
you like-
dude, your mouth ain't gonna be sting.
I know. I guess they got some that don't sting, but it's
What
like,
is
you
this,
know,
does the
it's
chef
going
come
to be,
and pee in your throat
it's going to be
afterwards?
slime for
Yeah.
sure.
And I mean, I like the oyster slime, but there seems to be substance to it. Like a raw jellyfish is just, I mean,
Yeah.
what's that fish tasting Smuckers?
Right. Yeah, pretty much. I would think so. Yeah, like just fish jelly.
I mean, maybe on toast.
All right, here we go.
a lobster roll featured fried bread stuffed with lobster filling and a horseradish sauce for dipping.
Bastardized.
Then, perfectly cooked fish encased in crunchy edible plastic, a reference to ocean pollution.
Get the fuck
Brought
out of
out
here,
the-
bitch. Get the fuck out of here. Get
Yeah.
the fuck out of it.
She
It
said
was actually
edible
in
plastic,
edible
so it just
plastic.
is plastic.
I'm
yeah, I
sorry,
guess.
but the one thing me and RFK Jr. agree on is like we ought not be putting plastic in our body. You know what I'm
Don't wrap
saying?
my fish in plastic, please.
Yeah. This is a commentary on pollution and fish. Here, eat pollution so that we
Uh-huh.
can comment on it. That'll be $700, you idiot.
Tongue-shaped spoon that had cucumber and daikon on top.
Okay.
The next dish featured a portrait
that
of Frida
Frida?
Kahlo printed using creamy pureed sunchokes accompanied by artichoke crackers.
Andy
This
would
lamb
love
brain
that.
mousse was served in a bowl shaped like a cut-open head, followed by these tender slices of veal tongue. Then,
Okay.
Okay. I mean, veal tongue,
Lamb
hit.
brain mousse is wild.
Lamb brain mousse. Yeah. But so
Yeah.
you just take a lamb brain and you just put an emulsion blender on it?
Mousse it. Yeah.
You let mousse it.
What was the other thing? Then just some veal, and then
Yeah, that's
here's,
fine. I've
here's
never
this.
found veal to be worth it.
I just had veal recently, veal marsala, and
Did you find it to be worth it that it was a baby cow?
No, I mean that obviously that's a plus. But
right, in your heart.
Yep. Yeah,
But
in
I
my
mean in your
heart,
taste
but
buds.
taste wise, no. I kind of, in fact, I sort of was like,
They need to
I
grow
might
up
have
a little
even
bit.
have just gone with chicken
Yeah, no, me too. It's like the
for
first time I ever had
marsala in
veal,
particular.
I was like, well, dude, the reason that they fucking justify killing this baby cow is because it hits so hard. And I had it, and
And
I was
it
like,
don't
well, maybe
hit hard
and
enough for that. You're right.
Well, and I
It's one of those places where it's like, if it was truly delectable, I'd
Yes,
be like,
of course, I wouldn't
sorry,
give a-
baby cows.
and that's why I tried it,
don't
because
hit,
I
but it's just-
assumed
it's too hard. Yeah, right.
I assumed that it
but
must
it is
be,
kind of just.
and well, and
I wonder if a lot of what we eat that is called veal is not really legit. in that way.
maybe, but like the thing is like the one time I was like, okay, it's possible that they fucked this up, so I got it again at a different place, and it was the same thing, and I was like, dude, I would rather have a grown ass cow. Like, turns out I like me a BBW grown ass fucking independent woman cow.
Have you ever heard that the song "Man in the Box" by Alice in Chains is about
Fire.
veal?
No. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, I could see it.
Yeah.
I am the man in the box.
Buried in my shit. Yeah.
Won't
Yeah.
you come and save me?
Feed my eyes, because like they're just stuck in this little box, and it's like
Can you come?
their eyes
Yeah.
just see through the thing. Anyway, I've looked that up before, and it's like, I guess it's not like confirmed, but it's like some people say that is the case, and other people are like, not necessarily. So I guess it's like disputed or apocryphal, but it's at least a thing that people say.
Did what's his
And I
face
think
wait
that
it that died of heroin
Lane
overdose? and stuff?
Staley, I
Lane
don't know.
Staley? Yeah.
Well,
he
that
could
song
go.
goes hard as a
Oh,
motherfucker.
dude, Alice in
though.
Chains fucking. I mean, they're good even without him. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
peak Alice in Chains, Lane Staley, boy. I mean, you talk about some great shit to snort OxyContin to, buddy. Like, holy fuck.
Absolutely.
Holy fuck.
All right, here we go. This is fun.
came a
chicken
flattened
beef?
chicken head with sour cream. It tasted like a chicken-flavored potato chip. Next,
A flattened chicken's head.
Let me murder
sour-
this entire chicken so you can have one potato chip and
Of
sour
its
cream
head.
of its
Yeah.
head.
So I can turn its head into a potato chip. Exactly. So we've had veal, the brains of a lamb, which is another baby.
And this is
so
all
that's
a
two
commentary
babies.
on sustainability.
Exactly. Right.
fuck
Exactly. Anyway, there's more to it, obviously.
Extra light and airy bread topped with savory egg foam sauce and Iberico ham,
For it.
which was followed
Yep.
by stracciatella cheese and tomato topped with live bugs. Then slices
Bitch!
of cured rabbit meat that were meant
How you gonna be like, hey, we're gonna watch The Dark Knight tonight, but we're gonna put it in black and white and reverse the film so everything's backwards, and also it's just the audio is me farting. How about that? Are y'all into The Dark Knight with just me farting instead of any Heath Ledger stuff? That's what they just did.
Just put bugs on, like
If a bug get on there, whatever.
Even then, people get mad about that.
Right.
If you're at a restaurant and a bug gets, you're like, hey,
They're getting ahead of it.
they're immediately, yeah, right. They're like, no, that's kind of one of the things that annoys me so much about these places all the time. Is it's almost like we'll fucking shit in their mouths and they'll thank us for it.
How
They'll
dumb do I
praise
seem to
me
Americans?
for putting bugs in their food? These fucking, and it's like, and people do.
Yeah.
But it's like, that just feels like the attitude of it.
That reminds me of
sometimes.
that joke I sent you, which was different races reacting to the same situation. It was like, wait till, there is a fly in my soup. And the Irish person is like, I'll save him. He like dives into the soup. And the Jewish person is like, that will be $1.50 more.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
So she said this is cured rabbit sliced very thin, and you're meant to roll it up.
I like
rolled
rabbit.
up and eaten in one bite. The next courses featured chicken. First,
Oh my
chicken
God.
feet presented in a small cage, symbolizing the inhumane conditions of caged farming.
See.
After that, a deboned chicken foot that was served with a fragrant tom yum broth. The first sweet dish was an ice cream sandwich made with a blackcurrant chip and vanilla ice cream.
Fuck
Then
you,
came
bitch.
art-inspired desserts. The Scream by Monk on top of a citrus licorice mousse, followed by Warhol's banana, recreated as a banana sorbet inside a banana juice shell.
That's
this
fine.
blood drop dessert made with pig and deer's blood had a slightly metallic taste.
No
The
shit!
QR code linked to
Right.
info on
This
blood donations
blood?
worldwide. Chef Rasmus Monk personally presented the next dish, a rice custard fermented with mold, creating a surprisingly sweet flavor. Then they served a mango chocolate bar. The wrapper contained information on ethical chocolate sourcing, while the bar was shaped like a coffin. Before we moved to the next room, they handed everyone these bioluminescent drinks containing jellyfish and honeydew.
I hope
In
they
the
all
final
die.
lounge, we enjoyed a series of playful one-biters. Honey with an ant inside made to resemble amber, a frozen cubed margarita, and milk hazelnut ice cream on edible paper. We ended the meal with a chocolatey cake shaped like a mustache. Here's everything I ate.
Well, I hope
All right.
everybody involved gets killed.
Yeah. So, I mean, you landed on the same thing as I did while watching it, where it's like, this is all about sustainability and being eco-friendly and all this stuff, and the horrors of the industrial, like, meat industry and stuff. And it's like, by the way, here's a chicken's face and a lamb's baby and all,
In a cage.
its brain specifically. And
That'll
it's
be
like,
$700.
It's
So-
just, I just don't know. To me, that's just such an, I think, different parts of the internet would say either, the lion, the witch, and the audacity of this bitch, or the caucasity, because it's very white.
It's very caucasity.
But the caucasity of this is just truly out of fucking control, as a lot of these types of establishments are. But this was one of the more egregious ones I'd seen in a minute.
To me, if you care about all that shit, which, I mean, I care about all that shit. Obviously, I care about all that shit. Not to the point that I know what to do about it, but, like, if you do care about all that shit, you could get that. Your $700 could go to a foundation that would know how to do way more with that $700, and then you could just go eat at fucking Arby's, and it hit just as hard,
Right.
Like none of it. Like, by the way, let me tell you the first thing. All right, let me cosplay as me and you walking out of this dinner. What's the first fucking thing as soon as we get outside that one of us is going to say to the other one?
Let's go get some.
Let's go get something to
KFC or
eat.
something.
Let's go get something to eat. We
Popeyes.
ain't gonna be full. We ain't
Go
gonna
get
be
Popeyes
full.
and feed each other the crumbs.
Yeah.
The Schmuckioid is a person who's commented on this with 37,000 likes. This comment that I'm going
I
to
think
read.
it's the.
I
Oh
agree
wait,
with
yeah,
it.
Schmuckioid. You're right.
Says this is everything wrong with society. Quote, this chicken represents how inhumane chicken farming is. This chocolate is in protest of the chocolate industry. This eye is like 1984. It's all noise. It means nothing. It's consumerism wearing the mask of activism. This restaurant is nothing more than a money laundry for the ultra wealthy to flaunt how down to earth they are by eating their a neoliberal nightmare.
Thank you.
And,
That's exactly correct. It's like
they were spitting.
It's like being like, "Hey, tonight I'm giving a speech on the horrors of AI, and I had it prepared by ChatGPT." You know what I mean?
Right.
I used ChatGPT to present my speech on the horrors of ChatGPT. Shut the fuck up. Like, just shut the fuck up. And like, also, if that's the only way that you can sell your bullshit, that tells me that it's not that great.
Right. Well, also, it's like, how do you even know what's great? I do always wonder with stuff like that was like, if it, like, how hard does it hit? You know,
well,
like that blood drop dessert or whatever. It's a dessert made out of blood, and it's one of those things. Like, if you pay that amount of money and you go to a place like that, and you're being told that this hits. You know what I mean? Like, how much does it really hit? Like in an objective sense.
Well, I mean, I went to, I spent around the same, maybe a little bit more. I definitely spent more because I paid for several people's plates, but it was around $700-800 a plate. I went to the French Laundry and I took my mom and my aunt and some of her friends, when we were out in Napa. And it's a Michelin star restaurant. It's Thomas Keller. And like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that some of it ain't up its own ass, but like, they gave us real food. You know what I mean? Like it was,
right.
and none of it was a commentary on nothing. Like we had Welsh rabbit and it was fire and everything was literally great. It was in small portions, but we had a lot of it. I mean, I still again, could have easily hammered a 5 for $5 from Arby's directly afterwards, but like it was still good. Like there was some of that foam situation, but it was always like topping a meat. It was never just like, here's a plate of foam, So like, and by the way, I'm not sitting here telling you that I'm justified in spending $700 or $800 on that. All I'm saying is like, none of it was that shit. It was all like, and the dessert we had, dude, this fucking like, those, what are them chocolates that like, they look like art on them? Tarts, not tarts, but, they're,
I don't know what you're talking about. You mean like that in that video we just watched, they had Monk's the Scream on top of
yeah, but they're little.
You mean like that, or Frida Kahlo was a dessert.
They're little.
In that?
They're a thing. They're a thing you can get in places, but theirs are just more. They're like these little chocolate drop type things that have like ganache in them.
And there's art on the outside.
Well, on theirs, they did art on the outside, but they were like their chocolate ganache thing.
Like a truffle, like a chocolate truffle.
A truffle. Okay. They had a truffle plate that they had like tediously drawn cool colors on in like a fleur-de-lis or whatever. And I mean, maybe visually that excites you to where it tricks you into thinking it tastes better. Sure. But like not at one point where they going, we're saving the whales.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, we've had that whole discussion before on here where it's like, there's plenty of, I don't know. I've never been, I've been to single Michelin star places. We went to that Michelin star Angla place in England that was fucking fire. Out of this world.
Yeah, fire.
So like,
and I got full there. I did genuinely.
Yeah, I know that many of them do hit, but but these ones that roll like this,
I'm not for them.
They just piss me off. So
and I would,
one other thing that I saw and immediately thought of you.
Oh, great.
This is an article
from the World Ham Festival.
The Collector is the source of this. It says, why does baby Jesus look like an old man in medieval religious iconography? So look at that baby Jesus right there.
Ringballed with the tuft.
Ringballed with the tuft. Now, you as a Jesus knower.
Right.
Were you like previously familiar with this? Like
no.
Okay.
No, Jesus was always, as a Jesus actual knower, I know that baby should have way more hair on his chest than he does on his head because he's fucking Palestinian. But as a Jesus knower from and I don't mean that disparaging, I'm just saying that's the actual region Jesus, if he was real, was from. But when we were kids, obviously the Anglo-Saxons had already repurposed Jesus into this white chiseled jaw, whatever Jesus that
Right.
is popular to see. But as a baby, he wouldn't have been ring bald with the tuft. He would have
No.
just been regular bald, and then when he was a kid, he would have had hair. Like, that's not just like, oh, it's a bald little baby. That's a baby going through a divorce.
Right.
Like, as my bit,
Which
like,
is what you used to say you
that's
look
a
like.
baby who had hair and then lost it.
Yeah, he look old, and look at this baby. This is baby Jesus, which it just looks like dwarf Jesus,
tiny
or
person.
a gnome Jesus, because it's like a small, fully grown man.
Yeah, that ain't it.
And it's like, and I assume this
Actually,
is Mary. Yeah, this is the Madonna. She's got a
not to
her face kind of looks like, why my baby look like
this. Look like
Yeah.
he just got a perm at the beauty shop called Curl Up and Die.
Yeah.
No, that ain't the Jesus we fucked with. I mean, we, as you can imagine, Southern Baptists had a pretty hard fuck Europe stance on a lot of things, except for, obviously, like, we still worshiped, quote unquote, the European idealistic version of Jesus, but I don't even know if they knew that's where that came from. Like, to them, it was just like, no, Jesus white,
Right.
Of course, Jesus white.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of churches in this country, essentially, even
And
if
it comes
they
from
wouldn't,
England. I mean, it comes
even
from
if
Europe.
they wouldn't actually say it, I feel like a lot of churches in this country essentially believe that Jesus was the first American.
Yes,
like, but so this says,
I mean, Mormons literally do, don't they? Like,
they
Mormons
think
believe
that
he came here.
They think Jesus was in America at one point. Yes.
Yeah. Fucking idiots. Sorry.
They don't hit. In medieval times, it was typical to depict baby Jesus as old, right? It says, baby Jesus doesn't just represent a young version of Jesus, but the idea that Jesus was born already grown, all-knowing, and ready to change the world.
Well, he wasn't, though.
I was gonna ask you about that, but it continued. While praying underneath a painting of Mary and her baby son, worshipers wanted the comfort of their prayers to be in the hands of someone who can help. An actual baby can't do anything, but Jesus was always special.
No, he wasn't.
Even as a baby.
No, that's not. Okay, the whole fucking point of Jesus is God being like, I can send a version of myself to earth, and he will face these same trials and tribulations as everyone else will, but he will face them and overcome them. But he wasn't perfect in the sense that, like, it was just easy for him to overcome them. Like, he struggled. Famously in the Garden of Gethsemane, the night before his crucifixion, he prayed, Father, please, if it be your will, let this cup pass from me. He almost didn't go through with the crucifixion because he knew he could get out of it, right? But he prayed and he cried and was like, whatever. So, like, he wasn't born all-knowing. He had a childhood and was a child, essentially. He was a child that had to, I think he knew, like, I'm sure God had some sort of walkie-talkie system, or I guess it was just their same brain. But, like, he fucking got an upset stomach. He cried, all that shit. And then, of course, now we don't know what happened. There's the missing years, which John Prine filled us in on in his beautiful song. But, like, none of that's true. If you believe in the Bible, none of that's true.
Well, didn't they, as far as the missing years, aren't there people out there who say that he went and started a family and everything?
Yeah.
And has kids and shit?
And that's out of the gospel.
I think there's even some, like, conservative American politicians. I don't know, maybe not. There's people that, like, claimed that, they, like, descended from Jesus or whatever because they believe that he did have kids. But the thing is, it's like, that would be like not exactly a Genghis Khan. So it's like Jesus didn't rape the whole world, but, like, the way he would live so long ago that if he did start a family and have kids and shit, the sheer number of fucking descendants there would be insane. But people would be, that would mean,
well,
if you believe any of it, that would mean that your great whatever grandpa was God.
Yeah, but also,
like, if you believe in Jesus and you're descended from Jesus, that means you're descended from
God,
the Lord.
The Lord.
So it's like, I get why the church is like, well, we can't have people thinking that shit.
but at the same time, though, I would make the argument of, and I'm going to get into some of this with the Pope talk that I want to do later, especially considering the first, like, honorary Pope was St. Peter, who was an apostle of Christ. When Jesus died and then came back, anyone who was, like, again, if you believe the story, anyone that had any type of association with him was killed. So if he did have if hypothetically this dude was real, did all the shit he did, if he did have a family, and it was known to anyone, the Romans would have 100% hunted them down and hung them babies from a fucking tree. So it's possible that, like, even if he did, no, we don't have any descendants, because, like, if they're coming after his apostles, they're goddamn sure going to come after his wife, kid, all these motherfuckers, you know?
Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
Well, it's not, though, because it's all
right.
fugazi, but like,
yeah, right.
But
yeah,
I'm saying,
right.
like, if we're playing the if this then that, then I would say, like, they're not going to kill St. Peter and be like, we'll let his wife and his boy go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But what about the whole? So yeah, you don't think so? In medieval times, they wanted baby Jesus to also be fully grown because they were like, babies are stupid and don't hit and worthless.
The babies are for pissing into my fountain.
Yeah,
you understand me?
And Jesus, he can't be a stupid, dumb, not hitting thing.
Yeah.
So that means he could have never been that, you know. And but like you said, isn't that part of the whole point of Jesus? Is supposed to be.
It's weird because it's like we, per the religion, were created in God's image. Therefore, if you believe that, we look like God, right? God looks like one of us, right? And so a baby God would also, like Christ, no one has ever been more created in the Lord's image because he's the Lord. Why wouldn't he just be a regular baby like he would be? Otherwise, there'd be no point in even having him born. Why not just have him poof up on earth? You know what I mean?
Right.
Also, I'm sorry, but that would have got mentioned in the Bible at least a couple times. You know, they're like, God damn, he looked like a fucking tax collector when I dropped off this myrrh. You know what I mean?
Right.
I dropped off this myrrh and this sumbitch started talking to me about adjusted mortgage rates.
Although, I mean, you know, every now and then just some babies just look like, how many times you've seen a comment on the internet that says, why does baby pay taxes?
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's
I've seen some of them babies.
Yeah, right. So, you know, Jesus could have just been one of them. But again, some of these paintings, though, are like, that first one it's clearly a baby, but it's made to look old. A lot of these other paintings are like, he's a homunculus. Like, he's also, the baby Jesus is just like a little grown Jesus, which is super weird. And I mean, you can't even call that a baby Jesus, really.
It's a homunculus. It's
a homunculus. Yeah,
and also, but in those paintings, him and his mama.
So, dude, I'm sorry. Hang on.
No, go ahead.
I googled. I realized what the results were. So I googled because I was looking for, and I haven't clicked on images, but I went to Google and I just typed, while talking to you, I just typed in why this baby pay taxes. Right, and then I just looked down, and all the results are like from the IRS and TurboTax and all this stuff about like child tax credits and shit like that, and how that works. But I was looking for, you know.
Have I ever told you about the TurboTax fucking conspiracy? It's not even really conspiracy; it's just real. Like the reason, like there's been not to get political, but like so many senators, congressmen, or whatever have tried for years to implement a government system, which I think Biden actually ended up knocking out at one point.
This is the exact baby I was thinking of. This baby looked like it pays taxes. She
knows exactly.
See, look, this baby grown as shit. Why this baby look like it pay taxes? This is an old ass baby. Samuel L. Jackson young as shit now. Baby look like someone fathering shit. N-word got on a let me see your report card, go get my belt face. This baby 46 years old, fresh out the womb. So, you know. Jesus could have been like that.
Did you start talking about this because you assumed I was going to talk about the Pope later? Or did you just want to talk about Jesus anyway?
Well, you had already told me you were going to talk about the Pope later. Well, yeah, multiple. First of all, I said, we're a lot of God and Jesus stuff. I did that God pod that you've done before, which we've read an ad. We read an ad for that podcast on this podcast, so y'all may also have heard it or listened to it. It's the tweet of God on Twitter. That guy's got a podcast. God does a podcast with Jesus. You know, cartoon God and cartoon Jesus do a podcast. Corey's done it. I did it this week, Easter week, the day after the Pope died. And anyway,
it's a Jesus-y time.
So it is. And so we were talking about that, and I told them because I was putting on theirs, and I was like, so we talk about fancy stuff. I was like, so for example, I was like, this week we are 100% going to talk about the Pope. Like, there's no doubt about it.
For sure.
So, I mean, I just knew. But I had this saved anyway. And,
it's great. It's a great call.
a good transition into God and Jesus stuff. But
It's a great call. But my point, though, is that, like, also in those pictures, I'm sure I said this and I just don't remember, but, like, it's also just depicting Jesus and Mary as two very white, straight, light brown hair having people. And it's just like, bro, in what world from the region, like, if you just read the Bible, it's like, Mary, come on, dog. Look at that shit. Like,
right.
Mary's, they're in Bethlehem.
Milky skin,
Like,
bro.
they're in Bethlehem. Ain't
Right.
no one in Bethlehem ever once looked like that shit. And I know you might be like, well, Jesus was different because Jesus was created from the image of God, and the image
God's
of God is
definitely white.
And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, fair. Even if that's true, though, his mama wouldn't be. Like, Mary wouldn't
Right.
be. You know, like, these are fucking Palestinian people.
See, this one is it because it's like this is later. This is like during the Renaissance era or something like that. So it's like this baby Jesus like do look like a baby, but
Yeah.
they've clearly given him like
They still made him look sexy.
he's got like an adult brain in that baby head.
Well, they've given him a chiseled jaw too, is what I'm saying.
Well, he's doing I don't
thing.
know. He's
Yeah.
looking like a fucking
Like, I know stuff.
Magneto floating up in the air or something.
Yeah. He
You know,
also looks like Hitler's dream.
Like regular babies don't do that. I mean,
No.
they flail around and shit, but this is clearly an all-knowing baby.
Yeah, if you've ever tried to get a baby to pose for a picture, they won't.
That one's wild.
Oh, that is wild.
That baby Jesus got a hole in his. Oh,
And
that's
she got a
Salvador
hole.
Dali, of course. That's Salvador
course.
Dali and his
That
wacky
Dali.
ass.
You know, that's that actually looks a lot like the original artwork for the genie from Aladdin. The original genie from Aladdin had, like, if you look at the original artwork, which we did when we worked at Disney or whatever, he had a hole in his stomach that Aladdin and the monkey hung out in.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
This is Andy Warhol. No, wait. No, that's Alan D'Arcangelo.
Okay, so that's
says
Midwestern Mary.
Andy Warhol ushered in the pop art movement, and so this is a pop art version of Madonna and the Child. So that's supposed to be Jesus right there?
Yeah, and the mom who is like making the worst fish Jello mold you've ever had in your life.
Absolutely. Just drinking martinis at 2 p.m., fucking taking
her Adderall.
weight loss pills,
Yeah,
all that
taking her
shit.
speed.
Is this... That is baby. This is called Madonna and Child. Is that supposed to be Jesus? Is that not a bow right there? This dude make Jesus
you know what?
trans?
Maybe. I was thinking it was a bald spot, but now that I look further, yeah, it was a bow. Well, you know, back in those days, all babies just like they kind of wore, like, you know, babies be wearing, like, boy babies would be wearing dresses and stuff back then. And now it's like, put my boy in a dress. But back then they were like, well, they're just a child. Who cares? You
This
know?
baby Jesus don't hit for me.
No, that baby Jesus don't hit. Smooshed face.
Yeah.
How you going to make him look ugly?
I know. That's what I was just thinking.
This is Christ here.
I know. That's what I was. I was actually just thinking. It's like, dude, back in that time, especially, like, it was
Seems
no
blasphemous.
small thing. Like painting a lot of these painters, they paint all these biblical scenes and stuff, and Madonna and Jesus and everything. And it's like, I bet they really. That kind of makes it funnier that it's like full grown adult baby Jesus, because it's like, I bet they put a lot of thought into it.
Well,
You know
maybe
what I
they
mean?
were
Like,
fucking around. You ever
I
thought
mean,
about that?
maybe, I don't know, but it's like, you know, a lot of that shit was like commissioned by the church, paid for by churches and
Yeah,
stuff.
that's true.
And it's like, you know,
And they could say, like, don't put the Jesus with the bald spot.
right. But back then, I don't know. You know, there were some rabble rousers who were like, this is all bullshit. But like most people, though, didn't, you know, they just took it for granted that Jesus was, you know, real and stuff. Don't you think?
Like, you do. Yes, for sure. Of course, dude. Because, like, it ain't been. I mean, obviously, Plato and these dudes has existed and shit like that. But at that time, there was only thinkers.
Well,
there
that's
was
pre-Jesus.
No, I know it was. But what I'm saying is, like, I'm talking about any type of age of, like, true enlightenment. Like, obviously, there had been an age of enlightenment, but, like, there was still only your thought that came out of your brain. Like, they didn't have microscopes, they didn't have fucking telescopes, they didn't have any of this shit. Like, they only knew the world that we knew. So still, it was easier for a fairy tale to permit back then, is all I'm saying. It's like, you know, earlier this week somebody was like, I guess, not to get political, but it is a good it is a good analogy, where RFK was like, there's more autism, you know, diagnoses this year than there were in the entirety of the 70s. And somebody quote tweeted, it was like, yeah, there's also more planets now than there were before the invention of the telescope. You know what I mean?
There's
Point
ever
being-
since they developed the mammogram,
Yeah.
breast cancer diagnoses have gone up 300%.
Of course.
Since they
It'd be
invented the
insane if it
mammogram. It's
didn't.
like, so the mammogram is not causing breast cancer.
Right. It's just
that
showing
we
you that
know
you
how
have
to
it.
find it now.
Yeah, it's showing you they have it. But my point
It's
is,
so obvious. I don't know how. I genuinely don't know how any adult human is stupid enough to not understand that.
but you know
we
what's
just
crazy is
said.
like they do
like-
understand it so long as it's adapted to something that they want to rail against, such as they use the same argument back when they're like, well, there's only more COVID cases now because they're testing more.
Yeah,
You know,
no
it's
shit.
like, no shit, right? But so they,
Right.
but they get it.
It's not like
They get it.
You know,
They get it, right? You know what I'm saying? They get it. But they're like, well, that's the only reason. It's like, yeah, okay, fair. So you're right. It's been bad the whole time. But my point is like, back in those days, if someone was just convincing enough to explain to you where the sun came from and it was God,
Right.
and you didn't have, like, I fucking get it. You know what I mean? Like, I get it.
I get it too. Let
But
me
I
ask
don't
you
get it now.
just one last question about, since I accidentally brought him up or whatever, and then we'll talk about the Pope. But this is not diverging. So God and Jesus, the God and Jesus that host the podcast we were talking about.
Yeah.
So not to break kayfabe here or whatever, but I'm just genuinely curious because I went on there
Is
with
it not
one
really
assumption.
God?
No, well, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's
No.
not really God, but I guess I'm inherently saying it because otherwise my question doesn't make any sense. Does God and Jesus hit for that show? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Oh, I don't think the people that listen to it, I think they're like, I think they draw in a lot of atheists.
Because I went in there, rolled in there very confident in my, like, God and Jesus don't hit, right? Everybody knows that thing. I felt like that wasn't really, at a certain point, I got the impression, I was like, maybe that ain't what this is. Maybe I misjudged this.
That's funny you say that, because I could see it going either way. I could see it being like, we're doing this, like I could see someone being like, we're doing this because blasphemy hits. Like we're God. Or
Right.
It could be like, no, we are telling you what God actually, like God would actually be a merciful person and Jesus would actually be a merciful person. So we're doing the antithesis of that and bucking against the idea that all of you have perpetrated that.
Exactly.
And so I could see it going either way.
I now kind of think it's the second thing where it's
that's weird because that's pretty blasphemous still, but it's awesome. I love it. But like, I mean, that's true. Like, dude, like I've said it a bunch of times. Like, if I don't give a, like, because I'll say some shit like Jesus would have done this, and I'll have people comment. They're like, you don't even believe in Jesus. What does your opinion matter? I'm like, it actually doesn't matter whether I believe him or not. I've read enough about the guy to know that if you believe in him or not, what I'm saying is 100% fact. That Jesus would hang all those homeless people that you are shitting on and saying, let's just give them all fentanyl and let them die. Jesus would be hanging out with them way before he would be hanging out with J.D. Vance and Trump. Period.
Absolutely.
Like I was like, and I'm like, that's not even me being an asshole that don't even believe in your religion. This
No,
is
that
a guy,
shit's in
this
the
is a guy.
Bible.
This is a guy who was in your religion,
Right.
read the book, and that's just, you have to know that. Like that's an inherent fact of what Jesus was. Like Jesus was, and I'm not trying to score political points or anything. He was a goddamn deadhead type hippie motherfucker
Socialist
who wanted
hippie,
a socialist
fucking-
hippie.
yeah.
And I'm not. It's like, yeah, the word.
hated
they're like,
rich people, hung out with lepers and whores and
And
stuff, and fucking.
and they're like, he wasn't a socialist. Like, no, because y'all hadn't made that word up yet. But
Right.
like, all of his beliefs are, he
Yeah.
ran into the church and was pissed at them for having
Right.
money, turned their fucking
the
tables over.
Yep.
You know, he also said, give unto Caesar what Caesar renders, which is like, you got to obey the law of the land. No matter what I say, it's like, you still have to obey the laws of your country. You know what I mean? Which is like, I don't know, don't tear down the Capitol. Shit like that.
Right.
But like, what the fuck ever. I'm
All
just
right.
saying, go ahead. I'm getting
No,
riled
I
up.
don't have any. I was just this is like, it is appropriate with the Pope dying, and it also the Pope dying on Easter, which is what even I think that's kind of poetic.
It is great. It's great.
But yeah, it being Easter Sunday and the Pope dying, it's I think wholly appropriate. We talk all this God and Jesus and Pope stuff. So with
the
that
Pope's
being
the
said,
fanciest motherfucker.
we
Let's take a break.
definitely need to take a break,
Yeah.
and then we can come back and talk about the Pope.
Okay, let's take a break.
Pope talk right after this.
Attention renters, if you haven't heard of Bilt, you're about to thank us big time because you can earn your favorite airline miles, hotel points and stuff through Bilt just by paying your rent on time. Okay. It's crazy. Like, just like Trae, all of us, especially comedians, we get hooked on points pretty early in the travel life because we're on the road so much. We're like, I'm going to use this airline. I'm going to use this hotel chain. I'm going to go to this place because I can get points. And you can turn them points into free nights, all that stuff, and it's great. But it's like, dude, the most expensive thing you have every month is your rent, and you're not making anything on it up until now. And now with Bilt, you totally can. Like, you're going to pay your rent every month. Why not get something back for it and start getting them points like you get with every other single card that you have on the most expensive thing that you do? Trae, tell them more about our friends at Bilt.
Will do. There's no cost to join, and just by paying your rent, you unlock flexible points that can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. When you pay rent through Bilt, you unlock two powerful benefits. First, you earn one of the industry's most valuable points on rent every month. No matter where you live or who your landlord is, your rent now works for you. Second, you gain access to exclusive neighborhood benefits in your city. Bilt's neighborhood benefits are things like extra points on dining out, complimentary post-workout shakes, free mats or towels at your favorite fitness studios, and unique experiences that only Bilt members can access. And when you're ready to travel, Bilt points can be converted to your favorite miles and hotel points around the world, meaning your rent can literally take you places. So, if you're not earning points on rent, our question is, what are you waiting for? Start paying rent through Bilt and take advantage of your neighborhood benefits by going to joinbilt.com/POA. That's joinbilt.com/POA. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. Joinbilt, BILT.com/POA to sign up for Bilt today.
If you built it, they will come.
It will hit.
It will hit. If you built it, it will hit.
Yes.
There you go.
All right. Have better sex with Blue Chew. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. And starting now, Blue Chew's offering a combo so strong, it'll knock your socks off and your neighbor's socks off. You going to be porking your neighbor? Well, I just meant, you'll have to move towns because all the noise you're going to be making, knocking them boots, boy. That's because of Blue Chew Max. Blue Chew Max has arrived, and it combines the active ingredients of Viagra and Cialis into one chewable. This is a combo that acts fast, and it lasts. Guys, be ready when she needs it. Get your first month of Blue Chew for free. I said free. That's right. Great sex is just a few clicks away. You sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The Blue Chew's tablets are made in the U.S. of A., prepared and shipped directly to your door, which is the best part of the whole thing. It's done entirely on the internet, which means no more visits to the doctor's office, having awkward wiener conversations, waiting in line at the pharmacy for your wiener pills, and running into your old defensive coordinator. You ain't got to do none of that anymore. Cho, it hits for you.
It does hit for me. It hits for me so hard. I've been using it for, 7, 8 years. And a lot of people always ask me, they're like, does it actually work? And I'm like, dude, it makes my dick harder than researching the Pope for an episode of Puttin on Airs without running into any type of scandal whatsoever. It just can't be done. It's so hard. I love it because I don't like going to places. I don't like going to places for hardly anything. If I can get it shipped to my house, that's what I'm going to do. And double goes for my wiener pills. By the way, I literally did see I'm not kidding. I saw my defensive coordinator the last time I went to the pharmacy. I shit you not. That was very prescient. But it's great. And Blue Chew will not stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house. That's the mission. They told me that. Everyone could use an extra hand. But with Blue Chew, you get an extra leg. You know what I'm saying? Huh? More horsepower. Enough said, baby. And we can all relate to, if anything, it's just you're wanting to feel more confident. It doesn't mean nothing's wrong with your wiener. Something don't have to be wrong with your wiener. You just want a little extra oomph. Like when I work out, my muscles could grow on their own, but I put some creatine in my body just to speed up the process. You know what I'm saying? That's all we're saying. Get you a hard wiener with Blue Chew and make life easier by getting harder, and discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew free. There's no reason not to do it. When you use promo code POA, just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code POA at BlueChew.com. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. We thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. And Trae,
get you a new dick.
Why wouldn't you? Hey, we're back. Trae, okay, so do you want to talk strictly about Pope Francis, Or would you like to just talk about popes in general and here's some crazy facts about popes? I'm giving you the option.
I think I'd rather have crazy facts about popes, frankly.
Okay.
I feel like, look, no disrespect to Pope Francis. I mean,
I hear you.
He hit for me about as hard as a pope can hit for me
Sure.
as a godless heathen. But I feel like many
gives a fuck?
other sources are much better suited to properly eulogize the man.
Couldn't agree more. That's
than
why I
we are
prepared
here.
both.
So let's just talk Pope stuff, I say.
I couldn't agree
Rest
more.
in peace to Popey Frank. And
Rest in peace to
move
Popey
on.
Frank. And you know what? I already did the research, so I can do it later if I want to on his birthday or something. But I prepared both just in case. So we're going to go through the line of these, and I've separated. Like we're not talking about every. This is 2,000 years of fucking religious leaders and shit, more than that. And so I broke it down, and some of them weren't interesting, some of them were a little bit more interesting. But starting from the top, I mentioned Saint Peter, who Peter was one of Jesus's apostles, right? And he actually. If I'm not mistaken, it's funny. I think he got made Pope posthumously, right? Like he was Jesus's apostle, and then because he martyred himself, they were like, "This is the honorary Pope or whatever." And
Turns out he was Pope.
Turns out he was Pope. We're going to build our church on this or whatever. And I don't know.
How did they even come up with? Well, I guess it's just. I don't know,
dude.
So wait, hold on. From the very, very beginning of Christianity, the followings of Jesus, like Saint Peter, from the very, it was Catholic specifically. You know what I mean?
I don't know that that's 100% true. I just know
Jesus's homies were like Catholics. I mean,
no,
it's probably not the word that they use for it, but
no. I don't necessarily think that's true because like Jesus's homies all got killed.
Right.
So they weren't nothing. They were literally just preaching the gospel of Christ. Like they didn't have like when St. Peter and Paul and all these dudes were out there preaching the gospel of Christ, they didn't have there was no like strict whatever. They were just talking about like this man who came and said that he's the son of God and you can only be saved through him by accepting him in your heart or whatever. And like, I don't think they had like the fucking, all that shit. I think it's like religion quickly organized, like, probably some people quickly saw a thing of like, oh, this Jesus thing is catching heat. We should have a building and, have people come here and tithe or whatever. And then they became Catholic and they were like, we're going to have a guy that's the head of all this or whatever. And we'll call him Pope. And they're like,
right. But it sounds like that happened pretty quick if St. Peter was the first Pope.
Well,
like,
I'm saying though, but he was.
When you say posthumously, are you talking like years and years later?
That's a good call.
Like, because you know how they'll retroactively make people saints and shit?
Yeah.
So at some point along the way, some other Catholic Pope was like, you know what? St. Peter was the first Pope. And they're like, you know what? You're right.
This says 33 to 64 AD, right? But I don't know if that's like
right after Jesus died.
Right. But also it's like, so he was because St. Peter died not long after Jesus died. Like it definitely wasn't 60 something years. Maybe I got my facts wrong, but like the whole thing is that they hunt Peter down. Like they hunted all these apostles down, and Peter, I'm sure you know this. Maybe you know this story, but like they were going to crucify him, and he refused. He made them crucify him upside down because he didn't feel like he deserved to go out like Jesus. Right. Mm-hmm. So I've always heard that he was posthumous. Are you looking this up?
I've
always heard that he was posthumously made Pope, but this makes it seem like he was Pope from 33 AD to 64 AD, which means that they just had a ghost Pope for a while. I thought it would be like they were like, he's our honorary Pope, but like we also got to get somebody in here. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Because then the next one, my next one is St. Linus, who's like the next Pope, and their crazy fact about him was he was the first Pope to wear a beard. And it's like, well, it seems like he's the first alive Pope. So that kind of makes sense.
Sure. But this random Christian on the Christianity subreddit says, according to Catholicism, yes, Peter was the first Pope. Let me clarify by saying that Pope is simply the Bishop of Rome. The title of Pope came around at a later date.
Right.
Peter was the Bishop of Rome, like how James was the Bishop of Jerusalem.
Ain't shit, James.
I'm assuming the James that was the Bishop of Jerusalem, I assume, would be James the Greater, not James the Mothead.
Ancient James did some good stuff, I think. James the Lesser.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I don't remember.
First, James popped into my head when you say something like Bishop of Jerusalem. It wasn't ancient James. I figured it was the James that actually hit for everybody. But anyway,
St.
Mark
Linus
was the Bishop of Alexandria. And then this says Peter then appointed his successor Linus who became
Yes.
the next bishop of Rome.
And that's who the guy we're talking about now. He supposedly had a beard, which I guess was the thing. And also, he is the one who potentially is the one who started the rule for women to cover their heads in church. So, like, the reason that nuns wear the, like, hijab looking things, that comes from Linus, which, like, he's, I guess, the first alive person that's, like, sort of, like, setting the mold of the Catholic Church or whatever. After he's dead, from 76 to 88 AD, there's Saint, and this sounds red as hell, Anacletus.
Okay.
Which, that sounds like Benifer, but for, like, two trailer park couples that fucked each other, Anacletus.
That's hilarious. Yes, it does.
His name
But I'm
literally.
sure it's like Heraclitus or something like that, right? Like it's that
yeah, it's
type of
probably
name.
Anacletus, but I'm saying Anacletus.
Anacletus does hit harder. Yeah.
His name literally means blameless, and he managed to actually leave no scandals, which is kind of surprising, you know, for popes because they stay being scandalized. And I don't know too. It's like, you know, his name literally means blameless. I don't know when it is because I don't have this in my notes that, like, you know, I don't know if this is how it was when they started, but, like, you know, the Catholics, their belief is that the Pope is infallible. So, like, whatever the Pope says goes, meaning that, like,
not
when
all
the Pope,
Catholics though.
okay, but, like,
I actually
per
talked
the
about
doctrine,
this.
you're supposed to.
I actually talked about this in the video I made about the death of Pope Francis. It's funny. It may not just be American Catholics, but I find it funny that Catholics in America, not all of them, only some of them, you know, a certain grouping of Catholics in America, even though everybody knows that to Catholics, the Pope is literally like the word of God in corporeal form. So he's supposed to be infallible. But American Catholics, if the Pope says something like, gay people might actually kind of be okay, they're like, oh, damn, this Pope's queer.
Yes,
fuck this
exactly.
Pope. I'm just not going to, let's just pretend somebody else is Pope. Maybe the president will say, but I'm just not going to listen to this Pope. And it's like, y'all know you ain't supposed to be able to do that, right? But it's like, so do you even have, is this even really your faith? Like, if you don't, that's not how faith is supposed to, right? That's not how faith is supposed to, you can't just decide shit like that. But in this fucking country, they do it all the goddamn time.
And for the record, no, I'm with you. And for the record, what those people are doing is called thinking outside the box, which I usually applaud, and I think you should. You shouldn't take what your preacher says as gospel, and you should, you know, like, you know how many times I've driven by a country church and it said, don't let your mind be so open that your brain falls out. And I'm like, that is so you just trying to tell your people, like, hey, don't listen to nothing but this shit. Don't listen to nothing but this shit. And they used to tell us when we were a kid, they were like, listen, you're going to go out there in the world and they're going to tell you a whole lot of stuff. And a lot of it, it'll probably make a lot of sense, but you just got to not listen to that shit, you know? But it's like, if you believe, because they truly believe that, like, God, it's like they have a conclave or whatever, but God really picks the Pope, right? Yeah. When if you believe that, then, like, either God picked this Pope and therefore the Pope is saying some shit and you should listen to him because God picked him, or somehow God, the Almighty, was usurped in this process. Which one do you think happened? To me, neither. You know what I mean? To me, it's Fugazi. But Anacletus, so then after Anacletus comes Saint Clement I, who was, this is an interesting fact about him, he was thrown into the sea with an anchor tied around his neck. Do I know why? Nope. But he was.
Why would you? Yeah, that don't it.
He may have also
to ever be sent to sleep with the fishes.
Sleep with the fishes. That's
this
right.
Was spaghetti.
A long storied Italian tradition.
Yeah, about to say. This was spaghetti people. So they've been doing it even before they figured out how to, like, you know, launder money through a fucking dumpster factory strip club empire or whatever.
I have to assume
get fat on meatballs.
Yeah, I mean, I have to assume that some version of La Cosa Nostra existed from the dawn of time, like, or, you know, in Rome. Like, this is, you know, we're in AD here. I have to assume that, like, it might not be like Tony Soprano eating gabagool, fucking meeting in sweatsuits, but, like, I have to assume that there was some type of La Cosa Nostra, which I think that translates to this thing of ours, right?
Oh, I don't know what it translates.
La Cosa Nostra, I'm pretty sure, translate to this thing of ours. Which is an Italian way of them, because nobody in the mob ever says the mob. They either say La Cosa Nostra, the outfit, organized crime, you know, whatever.
Yeah, you're right. Our thing. That's what it stands for.
This thing of ours. Yeah, La Cosa Nostra.
So, yeah, well, yeah, there was definitely like crime rings and crime lords and shit like that. Did you watch that movie or that show on Hulu? For those about to die, is that what's it called?
Oh,
Those about to die.
it's on Peacock, not Hulu.
Oh yes,
and
Peacock,
I'm
yes.
on the 3rd episode, and I like it. Yeah, the gambling ring and the it's
So
like it takes place in the
Ramsey
gladiator times.
Bolton in that show, the guy that played Ramsey Bolton, Ian Ruff. I don't know.
He's awesome.
He got one in Wild Names. He hits real hard.
He's great. He's fucking so good.
But he's like, I'd say it was some shit like that.
He's Dave
like,
Portnoy.
He runs like a gambling shop, and through that has his hands in a bunch of other things. It's all kind of shady and under the table and corrupt and stuff. And he's like, he's like a gangster. He's like an ancient Rome gangster. And I feel like that's probably kind of what it looked like.
That show really hits for me because it's like, it's sort of like you could have written a boxing show where there was a boxing promoter and then just taken that script and replaced all the characters with ancient Rome people and made it be about gladiators, and it's the same because it's like all these dudes who are like, oh, you've been the main guy. Well, you got to take a fall. You know what I mean? Or I'm not going to make this, and this guy owns this. So it's like, it's very modern, but very ancient. But anyways, I'm only on the 3rd episode, but I like it. Saint Everistus from 97 to 105. He's the one who allegedly divided Rome into parishes. So I guess he got there and he was just like, God damn, it's too many motherfuckers right here. We got to have different types. Like you'll be the father here, you'll be the father here, and we'll have like little sects or whatever. St. Alexander came after him, and he's allegedly the person who introduced holy water into the church, which I would have thought would have been there from the jump. That's a weird thing to introduce 6 popes on. You know what I mean? To be like, oh, by the way, this water is from a Jesus. You know what I mean?
But I mean, hell, he's pope, so I guess he can. That.
He's infallible. Yeah. Then there's from 115 to 125, there's Saint Sixtus, and he actually didn't really do much. But as you know, like the popes, once there's a name, like popes be like kings, where like whatever your name in real life is, you'll take a pope name. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So there's Saint Sixtus.
It's like we talked about, actually, did we talk about on here? Yeah, about that. One of the, I guess he's already been eliminated, but one of the contenders for the new pope, his name is Pizzaballa.
Pizzaballa, yeah.
Right, but
as pope.
As pope, it won't be that.
He would be like Gregory or
Gregory the 14th or whatever the fuck.
Benedict, yeah. Well, this guy, the only reason anything you've ever heard Saint Sixtus is not even from the first one. It's because Saint Sixtus, the IV, that's 4th, right?
Yeah.
Saint Sixtus the 4th is the one who built the Sistine Chapel. So the name Sixtus gets thrown around a lot, and they just nobody knows to differentiate. But that's the Legion of Sixtus or whatever. Then you've got Saint Telesphorus, who he's the one that instituted the tradition of celebrating midnight mass on Christmas. So that's the fucking guy you've got to blame. If you're like me and go to Iowa for Christmas and shit, and someone's like, we got to go to midnight mass or whatever.
Her family's Catholic?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
They're really nothing.
Yeah.
It's just that if they do, they're culturally Catholic. You know what I mean? Like,
I've been to midnight mass. A bag of shit, Amber, my high school girlfriend, her family's Catholic. So
my bag of shit, Amber, too.
Yep, I went to midnight mass. Did not hit for me.
No, it don't hit. The only reason, like, we actually normally never go. It's just that there was a time when, like, when anybody on that side of the family gets married, it's always a Catholic wedding, right? And so I think every time there's a wedding, they sort of have this like rejuvenation of like, they go to church and like, oh, we should remember when we did this, And one time it just happened to be around Christmas, and so it was like, let's do this, midnight mass or whatever. And then it was like, they were like, no, a bush light in the garage, that's what hits.
That is what hits.
But again, they don't like, I love them. They're great, but their Catholicism is totally based on like tradition, and this is just where we're from, and this is where a lot of our friends go, so we'll go see them sometimes. They're not like devout or nothing, which is one thing I like about Catholics.
That's what I was about to say. Were we were literally just talking about this.
We were on Well Read, yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree. I find that a lot of Catholics are the way you just described that, and
culturally Catholic hits.
I find that much more tolerable than the type of Christianity that I grew up surrounded by. As a general rule, I know, they raped all them boys and everything.
Well, they did.
I'm not saying
the priest did. The congregation didn't.
I'm just saying, right? Just Catholic people. Generalizing here, I can handle that a little. If you're gonna be down with Jesus, like I can handle that version of it easier than the other type.
Me too, dude. And like, dude, Daredevil's one of my favorite comic book heroes. If he was like constantly going to a Southern Baptist church to talk to a preacher about his woes, I'd be like, fuck this shit. But the fact that he goes to confessional, I'm like, all right, right. This makes sense. He's from Hell's Kitchen. Of course he'd be Catholic. And like, also like, there's that, the thing with like him and Daredevil.
Is that new Daredevil show over?
Yes, and it's fire.
Okay, sweet. I'm going to start that tonight with the boys.
Binge all of it, and I swear to God, please set aside like 2 to 3 hours of your life soon for us to just, I don't even know where we put it, but just record. I just want to talk about that show, and we may as well record it and put it out. Like, it goes so hard, dude. It's awesome. Anyways, Saint Hyginus. You'd think maybe he was the first pope to be like, wash your hands.
Well, that's yeah, I was just asked,
but he was actually a Greek philosopher who debated Gnostic heretics. So not an Italian pope, a Greek philosopher, St. Hyginus. St. Pius, so I assume that's where that word, he's a pious man, comes from. His brother wrote a text called The Shepherd of Hermas, which was an early Christian work. Then in 155 to 166 comes St. Anectus, who argued with St. Polycarp over the date of Easter. And you know how that turned out, Trae?
That's saint on saint crime there, right? So
they agreed to disagree. That's how it ended. It doesn't really hit that hard. Really made me mad when I read that. I was like, God damn it. I thought it was like 2 popes go in, 1 pope comes out. This is when Easter is. Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Pius, it's funny because you said that and I was like, oh yeah, because I knew there were popes called Pius, and I always just assumed that was like them picking a pope name because of what that word is.
I know. I literally didn't think about it till I just read this off. I was like, oh, Pius, a pious man.
But it says the etymology of the word pious is from the Latin word pious, but without the O in it, Pius. A Latin word that meant dutiful, devout, conscientious, religious, faithful. So like,
it's also what me and you say when we enter a pizza place. We're like,
so I think pious right now, pie me, baby. I think that obviously there was a Latin word that just was pious, and I think pope for a pope name, he was like, that'd be a good pope name. But the word itself has kind of remained unchanged throughout all. It's still just the same word. We put an O in the middle for some weird fucking reason, but other than that,
that don't make any sense. Well,
anyway.
I would pronounce it Pius, I guess, if I saw this, but then
maybe they did pronounce it Pius back then.
Yeah, maybe.
But how does an O? Whatever.
I know. I don't know. Then there's Saint Soter. Shout out Dan.
Yeah.
He's
the best voices of all the popes. Had the best impressions.
So goddamn funny.
Dan Soter is perhaps the most underrated comedian.
Him and Roy Wood Jr.
Him and Roy Wood Jr. I agree, and they're very different types of
course,
guys,
but underrated nonetheless.
They are. I agree with. Yeah, I think they are the two because Dan Soter. I mean, he hits for people.
Dude, Dan Soter does hit for people, but not enough people, in my opinion.
Not the way
he's also a sweetheart. Yeah. I've hung out with him at wrestling conventions and stuff. Like not a lot, but like he's been there and like genuine guy. I don't mind taking 1 minute of the podcast to say, guys, if you've never heard of Dan Soter, go fuck. And also Roy Wood Jr., which
hilarious.
I think Roy Wood, now that he's out of his Comedy Central contract and is on CNN, he's starting to get a little bit more pull. But like, there's some Roy Wood specials that he's already put out that if he'd have put them out on Netflix instead of Comedy Central, no one would even be talking about anyone. Like, that's all you'd be talking about.
Yep.
So Roy Wood and Dan Soder, two very different comics, but also both insane funny. And I can tell you from hanging out with both of them, sweethearts that you should throw your money at.
Yep.
Unlike us who don't hit.
What about this Pope Soder, though? Did he hit?
Is the first after this is funny because this is a very comedian thing to do. This would be a Dan Soder thing to do. 12 popes in, he's the first pope to issue a written papal decree. He's the first pope to actually be like, write a blog post and be like, fucking, I don't know what the papal decree was. That's the extent of my research, but he's the first one that was like, God damn it, I'm decreeing some shit. Which became
that ain't true. You already said. Well, I guess maybe it didn't take the form of an official decree, but you already said that other motherfucker was the one's like, "Hey, this water, Jesus water." Now that's a decree.
I agree, but it wasn't written.
You said it's written,
a written decree.
So it's just he was just the first pope who knew how to write.
Yeah, probably. You probably.
Yeah. The other ones just literally decreed. They just walked around decreeing things.
That's right.
And people just had to like.
Accept it.
Note. Well, not
but this one,
take note, but
right. This one did this was like, I guess he's the first one to give like a Pope version of like Common Sense by Thomas Paine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He probably wrote some shit down and was like, let's have this for the, for the National Register. Saint Victor was the first Pope to write in Latin, not in Greek, which is apparently a huge deal then. Wow, Latin just went gone. Just
right.
Gone, dude. Like that was back in the day. Latin was like where English now is the language of business. Where it's like if you're gonna learn, like if you're foreign and you're gonna learn foreign to us in America, if you're gonna learn another language, just like learn English, because that's like if you're in China and you're having a business meeting and you don't speak Chinese, where they go, well, English? Do you know English? Whatever. But back in the day, it was Latin. It was like everyone on Earth that was smart or was enlightened learned Latin so then everyone could speak.
They kept that even after Latin wasn't the official language of any extant state or anything. Like educated people, so rich people and fancy people and stuff. I don't know why I did this. Literally educated people.
Yeah, but,
like rich, fancy people, nobility, and that type of shit from all different countries. Like they learned Latin.
Yeah, because it's the universal language. It's like you don't have to learn every other language. Everyone just learns Latin.
Ended like what 100 years ago or something.
I mean, dude, Doc Holliday and Johnny Ringo speak Latin to each other. Now, granted,
clearly he's an educated man.
Right. Now, granted, you could tell by that scene that it was like this is a dying art. Like this isn't being done as much anymore. But like those two did it, and it wasn't.
But I'm saying Latin, it hung around,
right? And it wasn't because you're like, what if I travel to Latvia one day?
Shit, man, Latin's still around.
I know it is, but I'm saying like the point of it wasn't like we all learn it because what if we go to that country of origin? It was just like it makes sense. You learn your country's language and everyone learns this other one so we can all communicate.
Did I ever talk about, because I put it in my list as a topic on this show, and I can't remember if I ever did it or not, and now I'm forgetting even the name of it, but what you just said, it makes sense. Did I ever talk about Esperanto?
No, but tell me.
I don't think I did. Well, maybe I'm obviously not going to get it out. Do you know what Esperanto is?
That sounds like a mixture between coffee and Sprite.
It was, it's an invented language that was
like
made
Klingon?
up. The idea being basically what you just said, where it's
brilliant.
Like there's everybody, no matter where you're from, you speak the language of of your home and your people.
Yeah.
But also everyone everywhere speaks this other language, and that was Esperanto was invented to be that, and obviously it didn't take off.
It didn't take on.
But that was like the idea of it, and it would hit if that was.
I'm bummed that Latin went away because I mean, again, like I said, that seems to be what that was. It was just like you get educated, you learn Latin, and then no matter where you are, if someone speaks Latin, you can communicate with them. And it's like that's actually brilliant because, like, to me, I'm like, I want to be a world traveler. It's like, how many languages am I going to fucking learn? But what if we all just learn this one? And maybe Klingon's the way,
Well, I'd say we're pretty goddamn close to having a little thing you put in your ear.
You are. You already have it in your glasses.
Yeah, you put it in your phone. You can use your phone for that and shit. But I'm saying I think it won't be long until it's like
it's
essentially instantaneous. You put a thing here and you set it to Italian, you're going to Italy and they speak and you hear English like without having to do shit.
And in that situation, still only the rich and educated are going to be able to afford the first branch of those, probably.
Well, at first, yeah.
At
but
first,
technology, though, it'll get there.
It'll be with everybody.
Well, only relatively somewhat rich people are even traveling like that anyway.
Anyways, right. And I like, but you know what, man? Like, that too, though, will, like, I think even if you're not traveling, like, that'll cut down on a lot of hate just here in the country. Like, if everyone had that available to them, like, so much of people's they bitch about, they're like, oh, they're speaking Indian, they're speaking this or whatever. It's like, well, if you could just understand them without getting confused, maybe you wouldn't be so mad all the time. You know what I mean? And it's funny to me because people, like, I know people that'll get mad at Mexicans for speaking Spanish to each other, and I'm like, you ain't in this conversation, bitch. Like, you're not you're not supposed to know what they're saying. Like, quit eavesdropping, asshole. Saint Zephyrinius, he was just considered a very poor administrator. He let a lot of heresy slide. Now, this guy here, this is kind of where I kind of want to stop and go more into him a little bit, but I know that we're running out of time. But this is Saint, when I was reading this, I was like, fuck, I got to know more about this guy because this is interesting. It's Saint Calixtus from 217 to 222. He was a former slave who became pope. And not only was a slave that became pope, he got in there and was like, he let people for the first time marry across social classes. So, like, he was a slave who was treated like shit, and he got in there, and instead of being like, I don't know how to explain this, instead of being like, I'm so thankful for this, I'm not going to fuck it up, he did some fucking, like, you know what? Let's do some progressive shit. Like, I was a slave. I know how it feels to be mistreated, and I think it's stupid that people can't marry across social classes, so I'm going to make this be a thing. Do you think we should stop with this and I'll get into St. Calixtus next week? Because I do have some airmail, but, like, I think that's gangster. And he's the 16th Pope, and it just sort of gave me pause, Like, in 217, like, if a former slave became Pope in 1300, I'm not saying that's not crazy or insane, but, like, 217, that's kind of crazy.
You're right. That is crazy. Shout out to him for pulling that off and then making it work. Yeah, we could stop there because I want one other footnote from something you said forever ago, but I'd looked it up and I was just waiting for a place to put it in there. You said, like, oh, I bet some kind of something like the mafia has always existed, right?
Right.
So I tried to find out if that's true because I'm curious. And there's a bunch of different stuff. Obviously, there's been criminals. It was mostly like, bandits and highwaymen, right? Yeah. Pirates and that type of thing were always around. But this person on the medieval history subreddit says, I've heard it said that we don't see organized crime as much in this era, meaning like the medieval times, the Iron Age, because it's too similar to how feudalism worked.
Right.
If you and a bunch of goons had an iron grip on a town to the point that you could extort protection fees and no one dare spoke ill of you, congratulations, you just became a baron.
A lord, yeah.
The Duke's emissary will reach out to you shortly. Basically, the idea of a modern Westphalian state is essential for a government to micromanage its internal structure. Before that, a lord mostly managed his immediate vassals and answered to one or sometimes two lieges, so long as the tax arrives in time and the levies aren't short. Why fix a good thing? So it's like basically...
La Cosa Nostra was just legalized, and you would just be the Duke of Cambridge.
Feudalism, yeah. Right. Like you would just, it just. So I thought that was
that protection thing is so goddamn funny, and like such a I say genius move. It's just a dickhead move, but basically, like the whole extortion of protection is like the mob comes into your town and then goes to you and says, "Hey, if you give us $5,000 a month, we won't let anybody fuck with you," and you're like, who are the people that's going to fuck with us? And you're like, us. It's us. It's us that will. We're protecting you from ourselves. You know what I mean? That's pretty much it. If you don't pay the $5,000, we will let people burn your establishment down. Who would be the people doing that? Again, it'd be us. It'd be us that would be doing it. So you just give us $5,000, which again is a tax, which is like what the sheriff of Nottingham just collected, feudally. On his own.
Yeah, they're pretty shameless and big fat meatball people.
Yeah.
Tell you what, as a kid, I sure was a fat piece of trash.
Still are.
Still are. Yeah, I still am. But I used to be too. And as a kid, a big part of that fatness was I sure did love eating that sugary cereal. It was the 90s, and in the 90s,
Well,
nobody cared. They're just pouring sugar down every child's throat, especially in the form of fruity and chocolatey cereals, and I loved it. And I kind of miss it sometimes, but I'm an adult now. I'm a grown up, and I realize you can't eat bowls of sugar for breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day. You can't do that. Plus, you understand as an adult, you need protein too, and you ain't getting that from those sugary cereals. So I was like, well, guess that's it for cereal for me. I had to say goodbye to it years ago. But then one magical day, I found Magic Spoon, a nostalgically delicious cereal that tastes just like all those childhood favorites, but without all the sugar and with a ton of protein to boot. And if you're already a Magic Spoon fan, got some big news for you. Magic Spoon has turned their super popular cereal into high-protein treats that are light, crispy, and taste just like those classic crunchy cereal bars. Magic Spoon's brand new treats are quite delicious, let me tell you, and they've become a go-to for me before the gym because, you know, you want a little bit of energy before the gym, but you don't want to be bogged down by something heavy. Hard to strike that balance. Well, not anymore with Magic Spoon's treats. They're what's up. Joe, tell them more.
Well, you ain't the only fat back here, son. You know what I'm saying? The big back boy, me too. Let me tell you about their cereal. Every serving of Magic Spoon cereal has 13 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar, and 4 grams of net carbs, so you can feel good about what you're eating. The most popular flavors are fruity and cocoa, but there's so many more. Treats. Magic Spoon's brand new treats are crispy, crunchy, airy, and an easy way to get 12 grams of protein on the go. And for the first time ever, Magic Spoon's treats are available in the grocery stores with delicious flavors like marshmallow and chocolatey peanut butter. Dude, it's awesome. Like, I can have cereal and a cereal bar in 2 consecutive meals right before I go hit the gym. And it's awesome. And not only do I not have to feel guilty about it, like, it's good for me. It's awesome. And by the way, fruity and cocoa are definitely my favorite. I understand why they're the most popular, but like, there's something out there for everybody. They got a blueberry muffin, man. It's really good. All the stuff they got is fantastic. Get $5 off your next order at magicspoon.com/POA or look for Magic Spoon on Amazon or in your nearest grocery store. That's magicspoon.com/POA for $5 off. Magic Spoon. Hold on to the dream. Well, here's some airmail. Subject line, catching up. Gentlemen, following Corey's return to the pastime, I figured I'd give Puttin on airs a go and have been listening to nothing else since about November. I'm currently on episode 123. That's amazing. But my new job allows headphones, so I'll smash through the remaining existent episodes and be able to catch up in real time. I have 3 things that I've been meaning to bring to your attention for ages now. But I'll first address the topic of conversation at the end of episode 123, where you discuss the merits or potential lack thereof in the MCU and RDJ coming back as another character. I don't follow those movies, but something Trae said stuck out to me as an argument I've had with and this is in bold letters, so many people about films and shows like Fantastic Beasts or Smallville as examples. As Trae said, there are no stakes. Ooh, Lex Luthor might kill Child Superman, but he won't, and we know he won't, so there's literally no point in watching. The other 2 points are very minor and quick. Both of your accent work is stellar, especially the English accent. By the way, this person is from England.
Nice.
Both of your accent work is stellar, especially the English accent. But one thing always gives many Americans away when mimicking our voice, and that's the letter A in certain words. The best example I can give is the word ranch. Yes, in Northern England, the A would be a hard A, but the Southern, Southeast, if I'm being picky, accent, you would have more of an ah sound. So ranch. Ranch.
We go down to my father's ranch.
Where I assume if you're Cockney, it'd be like ranch. You're going to have the ranch on that.
Well, they don't even have ranch over there, do they?
No, I don't think they have ranch over there. No, they just got pubs with honey mustard.
Honey mustard.
Yeah. You would have more of an ah sound. I'm English and moved to Oklahoma City and refuse to order ranch because everyone laughs at me. So he goes, I'll have some ranch with my salad and potatoes. Lastly, this is something you have claimed twice over the 123 episodes I've thus far enjoyed, but you were both equal parts confident and wrong. David Guetta is French. I have no idea where. I don't even know who that is. I have no idea.
It's the DJ that clip that I played where he goes,
Oh, 9/11.
Shout out to his family about George Floyd.
Lloyd, yeah.
He's like shout out to, he's like remembering George Floyd, shout out to his family, and then he drops the beat real hard.
Yeah.
It's so fucking ridiculous. But anyway,
he says David Gaeta is French. I have no idea where, how, or when you decided he was English, but fuck that cunt.
He's right. I'll be damned.
I can only hope
is French. I thought he was English his entire existence.
I did based on what you showed me. I didn't know his name off the top, but you're the one that showed me that. I can only hope this gets read. Love you more than 10 crumpets, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. We got fans over there across the pond, though, love.
Nice.
That's pretty nice. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. All right, here's one. Brown M&Ms and limericks. That's the subject line. Hey, guys, long-time watcher, first-time emailer. First off, thank you for keeping our spirits up while the world, as we knew it, spirals into the shitter. Laugh or cry is my motto, but I'm consuming content from the extended universe. It has been a fantastic alternative screaming into the abyss. On to the topics at hand. I apologize if someone else already mentioned this, but the band with the brown M&M rider was Van Halen, not Led Zeppelin. I'm glad you couldn't hear me scoffing at the time, but was in utter shock that you would confuse them. Being a Gen Xer, their music was constantly present when I was young, but they're not the same at all. David Lee Roth is no Robert Plant, while Eddie Van Halen and Jimmy Page both belong in the Guitar God Hall of Fame. They have completely different styles, all very talented lads, of course, though. Consternation aside, I also have a couple of limericks to share with you. We recently saw Trae in Boston, and I hope to regale him with these stanzas of glory in person, but the long-ass line at the Wilbur was just too much. My father taught me these two, which seems like a daddish thing to do, but bear in mind that I, his daughter, was only about 14 to 15 years old at the time, and while prone to, quote, dad jokes, my father is the epitome of waspy, Mayflower-bred Bostonian. The dichotomy of these words coming out of his mouth as if they were Shakespearean verse, and to his girl child, no less, made it all the more surreal. At the time, I was thrilled that he would share such ribaldry with me. In hindsight, that is exactly the reason they stuck in my head, and 40-plus years later, are still at the ready, with which to regale any new audience I think might be even mildly amused by them, which I hope you are. So here we go. There once was a fellow from Boston who drove around town in his Austin. There was room for his ass and a gallon of gas, but his balls hung out and he lost them.
Love it.
Love it. There once was a fellow named Dave who kept a dead whore in his cave. He said, I'll admit it's a bit of a shit, but I think of the money I save.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Job's a good one, that.
The Boston one speaks for itself, and the other one is especially funny when you know that over the next several years, I was involved with far more than anyone's fair share of guys named Dave, and I'm pretty sure I was about to start dating the first one when my dad told me the limerick last note. I lived in Newburyport, former home of Timothy Dexter, the human Venn diagram of trash and fancy, and I thank you for bringing him to my attention. I now get a chuckle every time I drive up High Street, decidedly one of the fanciest streets in town, and past the corner of Dexter Street, where his house is located. My ancestors live in Newburyport around the time he was there, and I can't help but wonder what their take must have been on him. Keep up the good work, you too.
Okay, circle back just for a second. What Van Halen and Led Zeppelin, we got what wrong about them?
Oh, I had mentioned, I had said that, I guess when I said, we were talking about the brown M&M and the rider, and we were talking about the only reason that existed was so that if you went in there and you saw that there was no brown M&Ms, you'd know that. I guess I must have said it was Led Zeppelin.
Van Halen?
I guess so, but like, who gives a shit? Doesn't matter, you know. Like,
okay, because I definitely thought it was Led Zeppelin.
I did too.
So it was in actuality, it's Van Halen. Okay.
It's Van Halen. Yeah, well, I mean, her, she could be wrong.
Right, I've definitely always thought that was
me too, but I never thought much about it.
You remember I hope this hits for you. I hope it does not hit for you. Do you remember the limerick I wrote? You remember when I wrote all those limericks for all the dudes, for all our friends?
Yeah, the one that you did hit for me. Yeah, go. I mean, you went in on me. It was like a rap battle, but I still hit for me.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Do you remember it?
So I've been sitting here trying to remember it, and I think I've got it. It says, "Let me tell you about my buddy Cho, with a body carved right out of dough. Sure, he's a bit dumb and he's shaped like a thumb, but he's always on time for the show."
Say what you Bill about this bloke. He's a punctual fella.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a bill-paying son of a bitch. Yeah, hell yeah. Well, all right. Well, that was a good show. That was fun. That was some good airmail. And by the way, I still have two. Those were especially long airmails. I still have two from, and I'll go ahead and tell you who, by the way, so y'all aren't out there like, he never reads my shit. Marjorie, I've got yours coming up, and Jesse B, I got yours coming up. It's not that I didn't want to read them. It's just that I read some especially long ones. So we'll start out the show with yours next week. How about that?
Yep. Sounds good. All right. Quick reminder, since we did it up top, just go to TraeCrowder.com for all my upcoming dates and come see me soon. And watch my special Trash Daddy if you haven't already. And that's it. And if you come see me on the road and watch the special, they are completely, utterly, totally different, obviously. But I know not everybody knows that. So make a hit.
You can go to CoreyRyanForrester.com for pretty much everything. There's a link for everything I do, including the fact that I will be in St. Louis next Friday, as you're listening to this, May the 2nd, for 2 shows on a Friday, which that could go either way. So please come out and make it hit. It's always rough when you know that your last show of the weekend is going to be Friday late. But
yeah.
May 2nd, St. Louis at Helium Comedy Club, one of my favorite comedy clubs in the country. You've seen both of us there many times, so come see me solo. CoreyRyanForrester.com for that, where you will also find a link to my Hero, which is at WeLoveCorey.com, where you can check out my brand new podcast that I've literally I've gotten so many good reviews on this, from people DMing me to the comments to the shares on Blue Sky and Twitter and stuff. It's called Public Domain Sleepy Time Theater, where I read you a bedtime story in my most dulcet, southern, sexy voice. Sexy might be, that's up to you, I guess. But it is dulcet and it is southern. And for the first season, I'm reading Mark Twain's The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. The first 2 chapters and the preface is out right now at WeLoveCorey.com. It'll eventually be out to the public, but you can get those episodes early and completely ad-free at WeLoveCorey.com, and I'd appreciate the support. Also, I'm gearing up to do it right now because if you know, we record these shows on Wednesday. Every Wednesday night from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I am streaming live, playing Grand Theft Auto 5 until Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, that is, as my character Catfish Jimmy. It's a lot of fun. I know you're like, why would I want to watch a guy play video games? Well, I narrate the whole thing as if it's cinema, and Catfish Jimmy is a character in my movie, right? We just opened up a strip club. We've been murdered, and we have a pretty big beef with a gang across town. So it's a lot of fun. And also you can donate. I do it for free, but you can donate money in the super chat on YouTube or on my PayPal. I'm streaming a lot of nights raising money for a new project I'm working on, but you can just also watch it for free. Anyways, have fun, do that, all that stuff. See Trae, see me, and stay fancy, motherfuckers. Skew.
Mm-hmm. Skew. Here's Lydia Loveless.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Royalty and rednecks are alike. They both like cutting and picking fights. Biscuits and baked beans where they don't belong. Sit on down with Corey and Trae and learn some fancy shit today. We'll laugh a little even when they're wrong. They'll take you to a magical place where if you call someone a cunt, nobody cares. They keep it debonair at putting on airs, putting on airs, putting on airs, putting on airs.
You see that picture back there, Burns? I'm pointing like you can see where I'm pointing on the screen. The picture behind Corey of me, Corey, and Mel Brooks. You can't read the caption under it. I sent that picture to Corey as a Christmas gift or a birthday present once. I sent him the picture in a frame without him knowing it was coming, and I put the caption on it. And but I said, "This is to be displayed prominently in your home," which I appreciate he has done. And the caption says, "This is a picture of me and my 2 comedy icons." So, but see, it's in Corey's house, so you get it right. It's Corey saying, "Me and Mel Brooks are his 2 idols." It was a funny bit. I liked it. Oh shit! Actually, that the John Prine quote right above that picture, I also was a gift from me to Corey. Your flag decal won't get you into heaven anymore. John Prine, an OG, taken by COVID. Second time Prine's come up on this. I mean, all of this. I'm assuming you're going to cut it all out. I don't care if you leave this in here. By the way, if you me rambling. it doesn't matter to me. Part of me thinks it would be kind of funny. Another part of me is it's a bad. I don't. It's not a bad. Who gives a shit? It's up to you. You can leave it in if you want to or not. Either way, don't tell Corey. But otherwise, I was just gonna be sitting there staring at the screen. I can't handle just silence, I guess.